Right. So anyway, until the others join, those who have already joined, do you have any questions that you need to clarify? Any areas that you need to clarify? Anyone?
So Dilshan here.
Yes, Dilshan.
Yes, you have mentioned in the what you call this remark section with regard to my methodology that first of all the research onion should be pasted there. So my question to you is it with regard to my particular research or the general onion should be there?
Yeah, so that's actually the platform on which the methodology is run. So therefore, it's actually a general outlook of what the methodology would look like, right? So the research onion would have the elements that needs to be considered in your methodology section, right? So that is the reason why you're supposed to sort of put in the research onion, because that actually forms a platform. And then what you can do is, once you put that one in, you take those elements that are relevant to your research and explain, which you have already done anyway, right?
Yes, sir. Fine, thanks. Got it.
So, because you already done that. The only thing is, put the research onion as a platform, right? And then because that will actually, support your discussion, and anyone who's reading it would know that this is standard that you have used, to do your methodology.
Right, sir. Thank you.
So anyone else who have any questions? Anyone else?
Sir, in the literature review, the hypothesis development is not a necessary part, or?
Yeah, it's not a necessary part, but the only thing is, if you want to pursue a hypothesis, right, then your sample size should be over 100.
Okay.
Okay, because you can't test a hypothesis with 24, 25 people. You can't.
Okay.
It's not practical.
Okay.
Because hypothesis means, for each observation, you need to test, right? 3 hypotheses. One is the positive hypothesis, negative hypothesis, and the null hypothesis, right? So you can't do all these things with about 25, 35, people. To make the results more relevant, you need to have over 100, right?
Okay, sir.
That is the reason.
Okay, I have removed that part.
Right. Okay. So that is why we are saying that it's better that you use a research question as the basic and try to find answers to the research question, right? Rather than go the hypothesis route, because hypothesis route means you end up doing statistical analysis as well, right? Then you are talking about, because you are looking at trying to test each hypothesis, which has actually 3 components. Then you need correlation analysis and regression and significance tests and all. So that's going to be a little bit complicated. But if you want to do that, you can do that, right? No issue. But only thing is your sample should be at least over 100. Anyone else?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Here.
Yes.
Well, I have re-uploaded the section 1 introduction part as per your recommendations.
Yes.
Could you please review that freely and give an...
Yeah, I have no issue. I have no issue in reviewing that, but there are certain rules and regulations that govern this. Okay. Which means, because it's a supervision, right? Generally, supervisors are not supposed to revisit resubmissions, right?
Okay, sir. Sorry.
Okay, because it's only one, because supervision, because otherwise it will look like we are actually we are marking it before the final sort of report is basically submitted, right?
Okay.
So you see, so you get my point, no? So the issue is that supervision is only to direct. So the first time that you submit it, we'll just take a look at it and then identify areas that needs improvements, right? And then provide you with that so that you can actually proceed with that. So after that, you need to take that and then incorporate it into your final report, right? So we are basically not allowed to sort of go back again and then review to see whether the resubmitted one is appropriate and all. It will actually amount to sort of marking, grading the work and all. Got it?
Sir, got it. Thank you. And also the questionnaire, in which part we have to upload, sir, in the section?
Yeah, any section you can upload.
Okay, sir.
Right, any section that you can upload. Because when you upload it, I get a link. I get a sort of message saying someone has actually uploaded something, so I can go and take a look at it.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Sir.
Yes.
I have uploaded the questionnaire, but have not received any response for that.
You have?
Yeah.
I thought. Oh, right. Okay. Yes. I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Niluka, no? Let's see. Right. Let's see. Where did you upload? Can you see my screen? Where do you upload? Chapter 3 or chapter 4? Or where did you upload it? Remember where you upload Niluka? Niluka. Hello? Hello? Okay, let me go and take a look at it later on. I'll just give you. Right. So, now I'm going to sort of, give you some insights into how to do your findings and analysis.
It's under chapter 2.
It's under chapter 2.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, let me check. The chapter 2 is Senura, no? Senura, right?
Niluka.
Niluka, where is that? Richmond, Senura, Tushani, Ushan, Dilshan.
On 18th June.
Sorry?
18th June.
Right, I'm actually I'm using the wrong one. Right, so let me go back and then actually check that one up. Okay, right.
Okay.
Right, okay, so let me take you through the analysis section now. So chapter 1, chapter 2, which is literature review, chapter 3, methodology. Now we come to the most important part, which is the methodology section, findings and analysis section. Now follow me very carefully, right? When you do your findings analysis, right, there are actually two things that you need to do. One is analyze the results of your quantitative study and analyze the results of your qualitative study. Now, to analyze your qualitative study, right, all what you need to do is look at the answers to each of those interview questions that you have done. So let's say you have asked 4 questions from each of those interviewees. So take each question and answer all the answers to each of those questions. So let's take the first question. Let's for assumptions, say you ask a question like, do you agree that mobile banking or mobile banking can sort of help the bank increase their performance, something like that? So it's an open-ended question. So what you need to do is to look at the answers provided to that particular question from each of those interviewees and find out what did they agree, what did they disagree, what was the uniqueness in the question, in the answers. Did someone basically, tell something that the others have not said? What are the common things that they said? And then you need to collate all these things and then present, right, a discussion, an explanation, a summary of what they have already said. Now remember, analysis of the qualitative data is not to sort of, upload each and every answer, right, that the interview is made. No. What you need to do is to look at each of those answers and then analyze the common things that each one said. What did they agree? What did they disagree? What did they contradict? Someone may have said, yes, mobile bank, digitalization will help a bank. Someone will say digitalization will not help a bank. So that's contradicting. So you have to basically collate that, but without mentioning the names, and then say, this is their take, the perspective of this particular question, the answers to this question. So that's the analysis that you need to do, a summary of the analysis and what you think about that. Now that you can basically come up and say, why are they saying this? What is the reason why 4 people whom I interviewed agreed that mobile banking is good for the organization, but one person said no, right? We need to actually resort to traditional bank, something like that. Okay, so then you need to come up and say why. I mean, and then for that you may have to sometimes support your arguments using literature. Support your arguments using literature, and then say, some writers also said the same thing. So therefore, it's sort of aligns with my take, my analysis of what these interviewers said. So that's a qualitative analysis done. So remember again, qualitative analysis does not mean just to put in each and every answer that each interviewer said. No, right? You need to summarize that. You need to look at patterns. You need to look at what are the areas that they agreed, what are the areas that they disagreed, right? And then summarize that and then present it. Have I made myself clear on the qualitative analysis? The qualitative analysis.
So if you don't mind, can you just brief it again, because I didn't get some points.
Right. Okay. So let's say there are 4 people whom you interviewed, right? So obviously in a structured interview, you will be asking the same question from all 4 people. And each one will give specific answers. So now what you need to do is to, take all these answers out and then find patterns in those answers. So in other words, it's called thematic analysis, finding patterns, right? But there are actually tools and apps, and you can use that if you really want, right? If you go to the web, you can even download some of these, AI models, right? Which will look at all these sort of, answers and then provide you with the patterns, right? But some of these things are very sophisticated, and you may have to pay for this. But then apart from that, you don't have to do that. But if you can do that, it's good. Otherwise, look at it. Look at all the answers separately. Look at all the answers separately and then figure out what are the common things that everyone said. What are the things that everyone agreed on? What are the things that some disagreed or some contradicted? And then once you have that one, present a discussion on that. Present an argument, right, on what they said. It's not only what they said, but it's actually whether they agreed, whether they disagreed, whether they contradicted, right? And what is your take on that? What is your take on that? So that is also very important. When you analyze the answers and then you say, this is my take, my conclusion here is because of this, and you need to justify that. You need to say why I'm saying that is because of this research. That there you can bring in some of the literature also, right, to support your arguments. Have I made myself clear?
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Right. So others, do you have any questions on that? How to do qualitative analysis? So don't put in the answers in the body of the report. Huh? You don't need the answers here. You can actually put the answers. You can summarize the answers if you want and then put it in the appendix. But that's not required. What is important is the comparison and contrasting of the answers. Right. So once you do that, right, you can even link that one to link some of these answers to their work experience, right, to their age, because you will know the age of the interviewees. Some may have been there for a long time. And you can basically say, if some contradict with each other, you say these guys have not upskilled. It appears that they are not upskilled themselves, right? And things like that. You can actually bring in it your deduction on the answers provided by the interviewees.
Sir, excuse me.
Yes.
Sir, how we can analyze the answers of the respondents to the open-ended questions?
So I just said that for open-ended questions, right? You need to take the responses to find patterns. What did they say? What did they say? Okay, look at the answers and find the common things that they have said.
Okay.
What are the common things that they say? What are the unique and specific things that each one of them said? What are the things that they disagreed with each other? Some may say, yes, mobile banking is good. Some other person will say mobile banking is not good. So these are contradictions. So find these contradictions, find the disagreements, find the commonalities, agreements.
The ultimate
right?
response of their answers, no?
That's right. So you have to analyze the responses. I'm referring to the interview questions. I'm not referring to the questionnaire, right? Now, if your questionnaire also has an open-ended question, you have to do the same thing, right?
Okay.
Okay. If your questionnaire has an open-ended question, you need to do the same thing, right? But here I'm referring to the interview questions, right?
In my questionnaire, I have added the experience and the further recommendations of the respondents as an open-ended question. And here we can analyze it as bad experiences, good experiences, and the future recommendations is like that.
Yes, absolutely. So open-ended questions, when you analyze the open-ended questions, the answers, along with that, the interview questions as well, for that matter, you need to find patterns. Did they say the same thing? Very simple. Ask this question. Did they say the same thing for each of these questions? Did they say different things? Did they say, completely contradictory things. One say yes, the other say no, right? So that's the analysis that you need to do for both the open-ended questions and the interview questions. But I would rather you people don't put in too much of open-ended questions in the questionnaire, because it's going to be cumbersome to analyze.
Okay.
If it is open-ended question, that has to be included in your interviews. That is your qualitative analysis. Qualitative in your qualitative data gathering. So have I made myself clear on this? Any questions on the qualitative data collection and analysis? Right. So then we come to the next one, the quantitative, now the survey. So I think everyone has actually done the survey, the questionnaire not. So take a look at this question. Look at my screen. Right. Now this is one of the reasons why I said when you construct the questions in the form of a Likert scale, because analyzing that will be that much easier. Right. So let's say we have got 4 questions in your questionnaire. Now look at my screen. We have got 4 questions. Hope everyone can see my screen. Question number 1, 2, 3, 4. So each of these questions we'd have probably 5 probable answers. Okay. Right. Each one will have 5 probable answers. Now take a look at question number 1. 12 people have said fully disagree. 15 people have said agree, disagree. 8 neutral. 3 have said agree and 2 have said fully agree. So altogether there are 40 respondents. So out of the 40 respondents, 12 have said disagree, 15 have said 12 has said fully disagree, 15 disagree, 8 neutral, 3 agree and fully agree. Right? Got it? So now you need to find out, right? If 12 have said disagree, majority of the people have said disagree. Right? If 15 have said disagree, sorry, so 12 plus 15 is what? 15 and 25, 27. So 27 people out of 40 had said disagree. So what is that percentage? So you will see this. Right? So 27, 15, 25, 27, right, have said, that is 68%, right, of people have said disagreed, right, to question number 1. So now you need to analyze, why have they basically said this? Why have they said this? So this is where your experience, your knowledge, your skills basically comes in. Right? So question number 1, you have said, okay, 68% of the people have disagreed. Right? So probably you can basically then take a look at, link this one to probably the work experience. Right? So if you link it to the work experience, now in your demographics, you would have a question, say, what is your work experience? Right? So work experience in years. So if you see your work experience, let's say 60% of the people have, 5 or less amount of years as a work experience, then you can ask a question. You can question whether there is a link between that and this particular question, where a 68% people are saying that they disagree. So this is where your skills, your capabilities, your analytical capabilities comes into play. Right? So this is why this particular chapter is very important. So find out what is the percentage of people who disagree. So for each question, it will be good if you can actually put in a pie chart or something, which will give you visual sort of clarity. And then for under each question, just state why do you think 68% have disagreed to this particular question. Look at the nature of the question, right? What could be the possible reasons, right? Link it to your demographics, right? Link it to the age, the work experience, and also probably this is right. 60% what they are saying is fully right. Right? For this particular question, the right answer should be disagree. So therefore, you're on the right track. So you can basically link this one to even to literature and then say yes. Right? The future, for example, the future banking industry, right, will, let's say, for example, question number 1 would be the future banking industry, right, would face severe issues, right, due to digitalization strategies. Let's say, for example, right, the future, I'll type this one in, future banking industry will face severe performance issues due to digitalization strategies. Let's say this is your question. This is question number 1, let's say. And then 12 have said is fully disagree, 15% will say disagree, and then out of that 68% have said disagree. Fine. Superb. They have to disagree, Future banking industry will face severe performance issues due to digitalization strategy. That is wrong. Actually, the future banking industries will thrive on digitalization strategies. They can't have performance issues because digitalization is a way forward. So therefore, the answers that you have got are credible. 68% says no, they disagree. But what is important is find out why are these 3 and 5 people have said agree. Why? What could be the reason? Now that is where you can link this one to the demographics and then find out how many of the respondents are well versed in digitalization. How many are older than probably 40 years or 50 years. So you need to find links like this, right, to assess the reasons for these responses that you have actually got. That is, now these I'm actually looking at only one question. So you need to look at all these questions like this to find out, what these answers mean in terms of their relevance to answering the research question. In terms of answering the research question. Have I made myself clear on this?
So just for clarification.
Yes.
Now, let's say that we have 40 questions in the questionnaire, right?
Yes. Yes.
So according to your example, now you have taken only 4. Let's say now 36 left. Now 4 have been taken, right?
Yes.
Now, as per your example, this is the first question and the respondents, and based on that, we are providing the recommendations or the
not
solutions.
recommendations.
Am
Not
I right?
recommendations. It's not the recommendations. That is wrong, right? We are not looking at the recommendation. We are looking at the analysis. Why have the first question? Why is the first question? Why is 68% of the respondents have said disagree, right, to the first question?
Right.
Got it?
Here we are taking the first question, right? Not the first element.
No, so the problem is you have to take it question by question and then extract the elements out of those.
Right.
Got it?
Fine, sir. Fine. Yeah.
See, you have to take the question. Let's say, for example, the first element, if the first element is about digitalization, if the first element is like mobile applications, right? In your research question, let's say your first element is mobile applications. Now, let's say out of the 4 questions, 3 questions deal with mobile applications. 3 questions deal with mobile applications. So then, when you look at the answers, you can link this one to that particular element. Got it?
Yes.
Are you with me?
Yeah. So apart from that, can we include some literature as well?
You have to. So when you do your commentary or your discussion on each of these questions, right, or cluster of questions. Now, again, let me be very clear. If you think, right, rather than going by one by one, you cluster the questions together. Because when you cluster the questions, you'll be clustering questions that are focusing on one element. Okay? So you cluster the questions and then consolidate the answers to the cluster, right? To find out what the clustered answers would look like. Whether the clustered answers, the high percentage, agreed, disagreed, neutral, and so forth. Are you with me on this? If you want, you can cluster these together. And you can cluster these based on the relevance to the element. The elements or the variable that are there in your research questions. Or else you can go one by one. And then when you cluster it, or when you go one by one, look at, now for example, future banking industry will face severe performance issues due to digitalization strategies. 68% says disagree, which is right. Now what you can do is, you can bring in literature and then say, yes, even literature says the future is going to be digital. So therefore, the answer is valid. Are you with me on this?
Now you are saying that we can take questions separately and analyze them, or all together, like you said, elements. We can analyze them. That's
Absolutely.
the thing you are saying. That?
Absolutely. So
right.
there is no static framework to say this is how you need to analyze your answers, right? But what is important is to keep in mind the objective of the analysis. What is the objective of the analysis? And objective of the analysis is to find the answers to the research question. So keep that in the back of your mind always. So you may decide, right? I'm going to cluster 4 questions together, or I'm going to treat this particular question separately, right? So that will be your decision, right? Because you have made a rational decision and then saying that no, I'm going to cluster this. So no one is going to question you on that, right? Because this is your analysis. So you say no. I see that if you cluster it, right, then the analysis is much more relevant or more realistic rather than actually go one by one and analyze. And some of these questions can be analyzed separately, individually. Some of these can be clustered together, grouped together, and analyzed. Have I answered your question?
Yes, sir. Clear. Crystal clear.
So any questions on this? But remember, your findings analysis should be supported by charts, right? Don't go overboard on the charts, right? But then charts, we will be expecting people to draw charts on the answers to the questions. The interview questions, not the interview questions. Interview questions you can't actually draw charts because it's more, it's thematic analysis. But for survey questions, because it's no more numeric, no more scientific, because each answers would be provided with a particular number. So fully disagree would be number 1. Fully agree would be score of 5. So you can actually extract that and then draw graphs, try to find means, right? Have I made myself clear? Have I made myself clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So now, any questions on this? Any questions on this? Remember, whatever you do will be acceptable, provided the objective is clear. The objective should be to find the answers to the research question. And then when you do your analysis, you need to support this, right, with literature. That will be good if you can support, this with literature. And you may come across anomalies. You may come across unique sort of, answers. Yeah, these are not the answers that you expected. Not the answers that you expected. But if these are not the answers you expected, that's an exception. So you need to sort of, figure out why the exception is portrayed. Why? So you need to put your thinking caps on. You need to be analytical when you basically do that. You need to be analytical. It's like, going to a court of law and then trying to sort of, figure out whether the person is guilty or not guilty. And you can't just say a person is guilty or not guilty. You need facts. So look at the facts, look at the patterns in the facts and try to assess, try to argue out your case. Any questions on this? Any questions? Any questions? Right, so that's a question here. That's the first part of the findings analysis, right? So let me type in here the first part. There will be, I think, about 3 parts. The first part would be your qualitative analysis. Before that, it's demographics. Give a brief introduction to the demographics, right? Brief introduction to the demographics, right? How age-wise, qualifications-wise, experience-wise, and so forth. This is very brief. The second area would be qualitative analysis. Qualitative analysis. Okay. Qualitative analysis. The third one would be quantitative analysis. Quantitative analysis. Now, fourth one would be, okay, so based on this analysis, right? Based on this analysis, you need to have a discussion. The discussion on the analysis. So what is the discussion on the analysis? Right? What this analysis says about the research question. What this analysis says about the answer to the research question. Now, before you do the answer to the research question, you can actually talk about things like variable number 1. What does it say about variable number 1? Variable number 2, the relationship between the two variables. right? So again, it's brief introduction, qualitative analysis, quantitative analysis, discussion. Now, in your discussion, remember this. In your discussion, you need to bring in the results of your, literature review, right? Here you need to look at, amalgamate, right? Link this to the results. Link this to the results of the literature review, right? Link it to the results of the literature review. So these are the 4 things that you need to include in your findings and analysis. Findings and analysis.
So just a small thing.
Yes.
Linking the results to the linking to the results of the literature review means now in chapter 2 we have done the literature review, right?
Yes.
So should we again quote those literature in
No.
this chapter 4 or
no? It's a summary, right?
No.
You don't have to bring in the literature. You can basically look at including the in-text citations that are relevant, right?
Okay.
The in-text citations that you use in your literature review, you can use it here. But what is more important is, okay, what did the literature say about this particular variable? Let's say, for example, now I will take this one. Future banking industry will face severe performance issues due to digitalization strategies. So what did the literature review say about the future banking industry? And was this sort of, was this revealed from your literature review? It's only an example. You don't have to go individually and then link it to the literature review, right? It's a discussion on this particular analysis based on the research question. So what is the answer to the research question that you got via your analysis? And whether that answer is supported, right, by the literature review, which you have already done. Are you clear?
Yes, sir.
Anyone who is not clear? Again, let me recap this. In your discussion, in the 4th section of your findings analysis, you need to state what is the relationship between the independent and dependent variable. That is what the research question is all about. Discussion is what is the relationship between the independent and the dependent variable that is basically specified in your literature review. Now, what did the analysis show? Is there a relationship? Is there a positive relationship? Right? What are the elements that do not show a relationship? Right? And then bring in the results of your literature review to support your argument. And then say, even in the literature review, it was revealed that this is right. Or else you can say, okay, my analysis shows there is no relationship between variable number 1 and variable number 2. But in the literature review, it shows that there is a relationship between variable number 1 and variable number 2. So then you need to find out why. Okay, the why could be because it's contextual. Because literature review is looking at the global stand, whereas your results, right, will be looking at your local stand. So there could be a reason, economic or social factors that can give different results. Literature might say something else, but then your analysis might show something else. Have I made myself clear? So one of the reasons why I said get chapters 1, chapters 2, and chapters 3 out of the way is because, when you come to the findings analysis, your focus should be 100% on this. But this is intricate. That's why I remember I said, get chapters 1, 2, 3 out of the way as soon as possible so that you can focus on this. Focus on the analysis part. Because the majority of the marks are given to the findings and analysis. I think it's about 30% or something like that. Be given to the findings and analysis. And then how you present these. The discussion. This is the heart of the research. Heart of your report. Have I made myself clear? Any questions? Any questions? So remember, keep this in mind. You are trying to find the answer to the research question. And then that is why the conceptual framework was very important. That is why the questionnaire had to be a reflection of the conceptual framework. The questions that are relevant to variable number 1, questions that are relevant to variable number 2, and questions that are relevant to the relationship between variable number 1 and variable number 2. So then the answers, then the analysis would be that much easy. You can even cluster some of these questions that are relevant to variable number 2. Right? But each research is different, right? So each one is unique. So you need to find, your own path here, right? For the analysis, but keeping in mind the objective. Why are you doing this? You are doing this to find the answer to the research question. In other words, you are doing this to prove the conceptual framework is right. That there is a relationship between the independent variable and your dependent variable. Have I made myself clear? Any questions on this? Any questions on this? So focus on this a lot. Look at these 4 areas that you need to include in your findings and analysis chapter. And remember, bring in literature in to support your arguments. Bring literature in to support your arguments. So once you have your findings and analysis, there are only 2 more chapters. One is your conclusion. The other is recommendations. These are all provided to you in your friendly guide, right? So leave the conclusion, recommendations aside for the moment, and then do the findings and analysis, right? And then you can, move to conclusions and recommendations. It is basically specified very nicely in your friendly guide. Questions? How many more supervisory sessions do you have? How many more supervisory sessions do you have?
According to the schedule, sir, there are 2 sessions left. 5th of July and 26th.
Right. Okay. So if you finish your findings analysis, then we'll come to the conclusion recommendations. Don't worry about these 2 at this point of time. I will tell you exactly what needs to be included here. Conclusions and recommendations. Focus on findings and analysis at this point of time. Because I think the conclusion. Yeah?
No. I'll ask later.
Because the conclusion, you will only get about 10% of the marks, and recommendations, if I'm not mistaken, it's about 5% of the marks. So what is more important is the findings and analysis, and then how you present your findings, your analysis, the results of your analysis. You need to provide charts, graphs, right? You have tables, you can have tables, whatever. Charts will be fine. Just to show, just to prove that the conceptual framework is valid or to find the answer to the research question. Okay, any questions?
So what do you call this time schedule says that the draft submission should be done before 12th of July. Does it mean that even with what do you call referencing and all of that, we should submit for them?
It's only the draft submission. That's all. You don't
full
need
draft,
the
no?
fully fledged, but yeah, just for us to see whether you're on the right track. That's all. Okay.
Okay, so fine. Thank you.
Any questions? Any questions? So start working on the analysis now. Right? You'll have to put in 1 or 2 days sleepless nights here. Right? And then finish this. The analysis is very important. Questions? If you want any sort of, more clarification and all, you can just message me anytime. Right. So if there are no questions, we'll wind up for today. So start working on these findings and analysis. Very important. Right. And then those who have not been able to complete your submissions and all, the supervisory submissions, please do so as soon as possible so that I can, so you can get those things out of the way. Right. And then you can focus on your analysis. Right. So thanks a lot, people. Start working on that, and if you have any queries, any questions, just let me know what those are, and then I will try to sort of assist you in clarifying this. Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot. So we'll call it a day.
Thank you very much.
Unless you have anything to
Thank you,
sort
sir.
of say. Fine.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Anyone who wants some additional sort of questions can stay back, or anyone wants some additional sort of queries to be answered? No? Everyone okay? Right. Okay. So best of luck.